Hey YouTube, in this video I want to get into some red flags that I've heard of or have seen in the expat community. Now I'm originally from the United States and I've encountered and known a variety of expats in the United States. Immigrants would be another word. Some of them are great people and some of them are not so great people. And likewise in my travels abroad, I've known some really cool expats, and I've met, some not so cool expats. And so in this video, I want to talk about some of the red flags, some of the things that I've noticed in the United States and outside of the United States that are signs that you want to kind of stay away from an individual. You want to you want to put some distance between yourself and that individual for your own sake. So the first one, right off the bat, is if the individual, the expat in question, has a substance abuse problem. Now, by substance abuse problem, I don't mean like they like to have some beers on the weekend. By substance abuse problem, I mean every single day, every time you encounter them, they're either intoxicated or talking about getting intoxicated or recovering from being intoxicated. And this is a pretty clear sign that somebody is not super stable. They may be dealing with some mental health challenges, but overall, if they're intoxicated all the time, these substances, various substances that can be abused, tend to have a deleterious effect on the stability of an individual. So even if you've known them in the past, let's say you knew somebody from a long time ago and they've been living in another country for a while and you reconnect with them and it's been a while, even if they seem like a decent person in the past, substance abuse can change a person's personality. It can change a person's ethics, and it can cause people to act out of character and to develop negative ways of being and doing things. So right off the bat, if you meet an expat and they're constantly intoxicated, or they're looking for people to get intoxicated with all the time, Monday through Sunday, Monday through Friday, etc., every day basically, or even every other day, because on the off days they're recovering. These are the types of people that you want to stay away from. It may sound kind of obvious, but sometimes if you're outside of your element, you're in another country, you're not necessarily thinking in the same way that you would be thinking in your home country. So right off the bat, if you meet somebody, like that, stay away. Next, this is, once again going to be obvious to some people, but if they ask for money. Now, in your home country, you may have friends or family members that, they may fall into a hard spot and they need to borrow some money. And I'm not going to discuss whether or not that's a good option. You have to make your own decisions. But when you're in a new country, understand that it can be even easier to rip somebody off, take advantage of somebody, than it would be in your home country. If somebody's within a certain community in your home country, it can be harder for them to take advantage because that's where they're from, that's where they live, that's where they rely on their reputation. But in another country, if somebody is dishonest, they can move from community to place, from country to country, city to city, and rip people off along the way. So if somebody asks for money, you just say no. I don't have it. I'm sorry. I've got a limited amount of money, limited budget. I can't afford that right now, and distance yourself from that person, because people that can, this is just my opinion, if you can afford to get to another country, you should be able to afford to sustain yourself in that country. If you're, going abroad, let's say you're from the U.S., you go to Thailand, you're going to spend at least, $300-400 to get there. So if you can come up with that money, certainly you can come up with enough money to live there, and you can come up with enough money to get back. And this doesn't only go for Western expats and other Western expats. I have a friend in Cambodia, and she recently had an Australian expat ask her for money, and I told her, no, you don't need to give him money. He had some excuse about, oh, they're having trouble transferring the payment to me, this and that. I explained to her, look, if he's in financial position where he's living paycheck to paycheck, he needs to consider going back to his home country. Living in another country, living paycheck to paycheck is not a good long-term solution. Now, I understand if you're new to a country, you're having some financial challenges starting out, etc. But if you've been abroad for years and years and you don't have any any way to make additional money or any additional ideas for income streams, and you're just counting on living from check to check indefinitely, that's not a good plan. So if somebody hits you up for money and they've got some kind of excuse, you need to stay away. It's you want to help, you want to, some people want to help, they want to be empathetic, but from what I can tell, you're not going to get the money back, and it could even cause resentment. And to take it a step further, my own grandma, she, helped an individual because in the United States, because she thought that they needed help. This was another Japanese individual. My grandma was Japanese, and when it came time to get her payment back, she found out that this individual had been going around and telling people that she owed them money. So rather than them paying her back, they made it out to be like they had lent her money and that she wasn't paying them back. So understand that you might not just lose your money, it may hurt your reputation when that individual tries to astroturf the situation by preemptively hurting your reputation to make it look like you were the dishonest one, you're the one that owes them money, etc. So don't lend people money. I don't care if they've got 10 kids and they've got 5 sick moms and this and that, whatever the reason is. You have no real good reason. Nothing good can come of lending people money as an expat. Next, if they break local laws. So this is kind of a bit of a disturbing one, but if you see them flagrantly breaking local laws, regardless of what those laws are, stay away. People get caught up in their friends' legal issues all the time. And this goes for within the United States and outside the United States. But if you see somebody, regardless of what the local law is, they break the law and they laugh about it, they don't take it seriously, and there's harsh and heavy penalties for breaking that law, stay away. You don't want to end up locked up abroad because you were friends with somebody that is violating the laws, and the local police catch them, and they for some reason you're hanging out with them, and they blame you as well. So somebody, an expat, is breaking a lot of local laws, you need to stay away. It's nothing good can come with breaking laws and violating laws on a regular basis. They might make the argument, oh, it's just this one time, this and that. It doesn't matter. You don't want to run into legal issues because of who you associate with. You may think, well, I'm not guilty, I didn't do that thing. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And it's a lot easier to have foresight to avoid this than after you've gotten in trouble to then try to deal with it in a legal system you're not totally familiar with, in a country where you don't know a lot of people. So if you notice an expat breaking a lot of laws, you need to avoid them. Not finally. We're not even partway through yet. Not even halfway through yet. Next, if they malign the new country. If you see an expat that always has something negative to say about the new country, oh, Philippines is this way, oh, Thailand is that way. Well, first off, understand that they could go back home. I mean, that some people say, oh, this and that, they can't go back. Well, they can go back home. If they don't like the new country, if they have all these different complaints and problems about it, understand that they're probably not happy, and you don't really want to associate and be friends with somebody that is unhappy. In my opinion, any country you move to, there's a series of trade-offs. Not everything's going to be perfect. People feel like, oh, I'll move to the United States and my whole life will be perfect, and then they get frustrated because life in the US is not perfect. Or, oh, I'm going to move to Mexico and life is going to be perfect. Everything is going to be right and there's no such thing as problems, this and that. That's not true at all. Understand that there's problems regardless of where you live, and that as an expat, you have to decide, is it worth the trade-off? Do I prefer this set of problems compared to my old set of problems? And if I don't, maybe I need to consider going back. So if you know an expat that they're constantly maligning the new country, constantly complaining about the political system or the government or this and that, you need to stay away. And in some countries, that's not legal. Some countries, it's actually illegal to complain about various aspects of society. So keep in mind, tying into my earlier point about breaking the law, some of these people are breaking the law by complaining. So If somebody has all these complaints and every time you see them or talk to them, they're complaining about these things, and even just mild things like the weather or the rain or this and that, just stay away. Some people are negative and are best left alone to be negative on their own, because they're looking for, many times I've found negative people are looking to confirm their negative feelings or thoughts, and they want to bring others down into that sort of miasma of misery and unhappiness. So if you know an expat's constantly complaining about the new country, just stay away. There's plenty of countries in the world that a person could check out, and if they're not happy in one, they should really consider going to a different one. And in that same line of thinking, if an expat, complains too much, it's just better to move on. Next, if they have a negative reputation among the locals, if you talk to local people in the area and they warn you to stay away from that individual, or you see people kind of giving them dirty looks in public, if you see people, talking suspiciously about them or not wanting to associate with them, trust the locals. Let's say you've moved to a new town and you're unsure of who to meet, and this seemingly friendly expat comes up to you and introduces themselves, and they want to be your friend and this and that, but the locals seem to have a negative attitude toward them. Take that seriously. Those locals may have seen this individual act in negative ways and break the law and be rude over the past 6 months, maybe a year or two, and have more information than you do. So if somebody has a bad reputation among the locals, trust the locals, understand that they may have seen more or heard more and observed more that you're not familiar with, and these types of things should be taken seriously. And understand that even though you, as an expat, you may be used to people attempting to give you good service due to tourism, that not everybody is friendly and not everybody should be. Not all expats are the same. As a common thing I hear is, don't be friends with somebody just because they're from the same country as you. If you think about it this way, if you were in your home country, would you be friends with that individual? So if people if you know somebody in your home country that's got a negative reputation there, think about it in the same way. If they have a negative reputation among the locals, probably best to stay away. Next, if they have a vague story about why they moved, usually it comes up among expats. Why'd you move? Why did you leave your home country? Why are you here? If they don't have a strong answer, they don't provide, reasonable level of details. If they're super vague, consider that they might have left because they're running from serious problems or running from legal issues. And I don't mean, get their life story the first time you meet them, but after a couple of times of hanging out, you should have an idea of their backstory and their background. So if they don't provide this information organically, consider that they may be on the run, they may be trying to disguise the real reasons as to why they're an expat. And it's, some people have great reasons for becoming an expat. I mean, me personally, I have some interest in it because I don't have family in my home country. So for me, there's not as much holding me back there in my home country as for some people that may have a big family and they want to remain close to them and to spend time with them. Well, that's a non-issue for me. So that's a pretty obvious reason as to why I'd want to expat. I mean, I simply don't have reason to stick around for the holidays. I don't have a family house to look after. These are things that just aren't on my mind. So finally, this is the last reason. If they left their home country for kind of no good reason and they're just working a job with no realistic future career progression, if they're kind of just slacking off, consider staying away from them. And what I mean by this is there's some people that they're trying to get by in life by doing the absolute minimal possible. And I'm not talking about retirees. I'm not talking about people that have worked their whole lives and they've contributed plenty to society and they're looking to relax and enjoy their twilight years. I'm talking about young people that simply do not want to do any more than they have to but scrape by, these people can really hold you back. And I'm talking specifically about people with no backup plan. You don't want to develop a relationship with somebody that's going to look at you as a life jacket when they run into issues that are semi-predictable. And by semi-predictable, I mean, before you go expat, you need to you need to have a plan for the things that could go wrong. Now, am I suggesting everything will go wrong? Not at all, but you need to consider that things might go wrong and that you need to have some level of self-reliance. So if you know somebody that they're constantly hitting you up for favors and they're constantly hitting you up for this and that, and they're trying to offset some of the costs of living abroad. If they're asking you, oh hey, can you pay for this, or can you buy this, or they're wanting to ask you, oh, can I borrow your motorbike, and can I borrow this, and can I borrow that, and it's just a constant series of them asking you for favors. You need to stay away from them. Some people, just like in their home countries, will go abroad and they'll want to develop these one-sided relationships where they take and take and take, but they don't reciprocate. So yeah, I hope these tips have been helpful. These are some of the red flags that I've experienced and seen in the expat communities, both in the United States and abroad. These things are some of the red flags, but if you know of other red flags, let us know down in the comments. Maybe you know of some green flags. Maybe there's some signs that somebody's a decent expat. But I tend to think that there's going to be more people with red flags than people with green flags. So thank you for watching, and I appreciate you taking the time to check my stuff out, and I will see you next time.